Hi, it's day 67 of 365 days of remembering, and I am out. It's Trina Wright, by the way, walking in the rain, which is really fun because we haven't had very much rain here in Northern California. So I'm swirling in the rain because that's fun. Today I want to take on an interesting topic. I want to talk about truth. And it was interesting when I felt the nudge to speak on this because there's so much amplified energy about thinking that there is a truth, that somehow, somewhere, there is a truth to be found. And I think that might be true. But also, I think everything that you could ever think, there's infinite possibilities in this illusory creation, this space that we're all playing in, that we're all remembering, that we're all expressing in. And so what that means is any of those infinite possibilities are still a perfect expression of source. On our way to what is the funny thing? Like, what is it that we're seeking when we think of the word truth? I think often we're looking for truth as spiritual seekers, as spiritually conscious beings. We're looking for truth as the guiding force of how we want to move in life. Like, what is it that we're sort of hoping to land at, hoping to arrive at? And it's interesting because that's really different than kind of the other ideas around truth that could be out there, like the idea that something's true and something's not. And so therefore I'm right and you're wrong because my truth is right and yours isn't. And I've been thinking about like shifting it so that when I speak on these videos and when I share what I'm going to call the teachings that I want to share that are coming through me, that seem like they're coming from a higher place, I know that they are fine-tuned to me and to those that are listening. I know that they're relevant. And I also know that they represent one aspect of truth. Like if you think of this entire experience and our perception of that experience and our projection of that experience as a multifaceted diamond, then every beautiful facet of the diamond represents one aspect of expression, which is in essence a truth. So anything that is here is true. It's all equally valid. Now, that said, what does it mean to be true in the sense of when we think about alignment? When we think about alignment and attunement to our inner being, I feel bad when I'm not in attunement with that, and I feel good when I am. So then that gives us a clue that there must be something true. So how do I step into knowing, into some clarity about that, what that truth is? And again, couldn't that be slightly different for each and every one of us? I mean, ultimately, sure, you could just take some generic situations and say, oh, well, that would feel good and this wouldn't feel good. So, it's true that we're all beings of love. It's true that we should express love. It's true that we should serve as much as possible. It's true that as the more and more we empty and realize, the more and more energy we have available to be of service in that way. And that's an ultimate expression of the infinite. Not sure it's better, but it might be. I've been thinking that maybe what it is when we share the same truth as what our inner being sees as the truth in any given moment, there's a deeper expansion of the universe. There's a deeper expansion of myself, of my soul, of my journey. So I was framing up today in conversation with my partner, what is my deepest, biggest truth? Because I do see that our own unique truth is valuable and it can serve as a guiding principle to how we then want to flow and be in our life. And so for me, the guiding principle is I know I'm a being of love and light. I know I'm more than just this physical body. I know that I'm a soul and that I'm a soul evolving, that I'm a soul having a journey here. And what's true for me is that how I express, how I take the learning, the growth, the expansion opportunities that I am being exposed to over and over and over again through interaction with my inner being, through interaction and catalyst from this environment, through carving that out with my inner being and moving into trust and flow with the universe, I am amplifying and expanding. And the more aligned that I can come into it, the quicker that I take those lessons, the more evolution there will be for my soul. And that's ultimately the most important thing to me. That's what I want more than anything else. That also taps into, I think, constantly we are being given opportunities to amplify that expansion, to take an experience and let it be like one of those life-defining sort of profound experiences. And I've been thinking about, being on social media, and it's often noticed that someone will be going through a bad time or having a rough time. Maybe their marriage ended, maybe someone died or they lost their job, or there's just one of those things that is sort of like seems unexpected, seems like they don't want to own it. It's not clear to them that they created it for themselves, and they're struggling a little bit in it. Even if they're on the spiritual path, even if they're spiritual, this thing that they don't think they created has shown up, and now what do they do? What I find interesting is, to me, that's like the perfect opportunity, in the sense of falling to your knees and surrender, looking up, looking in, looking wherever you want to look, to find the truth of your own being, to find God. And yet so much of us just want to find another thing, find another thing, find another thing to fill that next void. So every time a void is presented to us, it's an opportunity. It's our inner being saying, look at this void that has been created from you putting too much attention on the conditions outside of you, for you thinking that that's where your happiness lies, from you thinking that that's where your joy lies. This void is now here to show you that that's not true. Can you take that? Can you take it, sit with it, be okay with it, not look to fill it, but see it as the opportunity to dive deep into your true self, deep into that essence of yourself, and from that place define the truth that you want to see. And I think those opportunities abound, and I stand in my own truth with that, because when my husband, my first husband and father of my children, transitioned, that was the take me to my knees moment. That was the opportunity. And just to be completely authentic and transparent, I did seek outside of myself immediately, very quickly, to find other relationships, to find other things that were going to fill that void, but then came to the clean recognition that nothing is going to be able to fill that. It has to come from inside of me. It has to come from my relationship with my inner self, with my inner being. And so that's what I've been diving into. That's what I've been diving into. And that's what took me to this really awesome, epic aligned partnership that I now stand in with my beloved Frank, that just keeps getting better and better, because he is not there to fill anything for me. He is, in fact, the reflection of all the filling that I've done within myself from myself. So I love myself so full that then I love to see the reflection back from him, and I love to flow that fullness to him, because it's beautiful. So when we think about truth, I think each of us could have our own individuated aspect of that truth. One's not more true than the other. They're all just equally valid. And what's unique and also cool is that from our truth, we can then create our stories and our beliefs to be in alignment with that truth. Because again, if any truth is equally valid, then it means we, and with the law of attraction, it means we will create the evidence outside of ourselves in the reflection that validates the truth of our truth. So trying to argue with someone else about what is true doesn't seem like it's going to get us to the best place. And it's another one of those paradoxical things. I know we all want to believe that being kind, being loving, being compassionate, those human kind of characteristics, infusing any situation with like grace and peace and full-on presence. Like, we want to believe that those things are higher truths. And I'm not saying they're not, but I'm also saying that they're not, in the sense that if each of those is equally valid and true, and they're all just expressions of the oneness, then really it comes down to what is the most relevant truth for you. And maybe what's the most relevant truth for you is the acceptance of all the possibilities of truth. That if we live in a universe that is filled with infinite potential, if we truly are the creators of our experience and we can create anything, then that means that anything that we create has to have come from that love light energy, has to be of God, of joy. And so it's so funny, because right now with so many things going on in the world and people getting amplified here, there, and everywhere about all kinds of things, what's interesting to me is just remind yourself that whatever it is, it could be your take you to your knees experience. That's God too. That's source too. That's you creating that for you. And so what are you going to do with that best creation? Whether it's something way out there that hasn't really touched you, touched your sort of visceral landscape, but it's still there and you have awareness of it, what are you going to do with that? Or if it comes closer, what are you going to do with it? Because we all get to make those choices. And remember, we're deliberate conscious creators, which means we are deliberately fine-tuning our offering to the universe. We are deliberately fine-tuning how we can come into connection, more and more with our inner being, more and more clarity, more and more flow, so that we get more pristine in those creations. And not from a place of going, oh, why did I create that? No, in a place of like, wow, that's an epic creation, and it's so cool that so many other people are creating their truth, because that's really what it is. But take the time to be conscious in what your truth is. What do you believe is true? And recognize that it's also going to be changing, because anytime we find a conclusion about what we think is true, that's when something will come along that says, well, it's not true. And I think that's the most funnest part, is being open to that constant expansion into truth, into our full self, into our deepest expression. So I don't know if we really got there, but it's fun to play with ideas. It's fun to play with constructs. And sometimes an idea like this with so much paradox surrounding it is hard to get to sort of a truth. But I wanted to just begin to open this conversation around the idea of truth and around the idea of finding your truth, figuring out what feels best to you, and recognizing that it's going to morph, it's going to change, it's going to merge as you expand. But another cool thing about truth is truth seems like a lot of packed up beliefs, if you ask me, like a lot of constructs and a lot of things that can come together to sort of hold a belief. And sometimes when you have a lot of beliefs and a big truth like that, it can sort of feel a little contractual in the sense that it causes a shying away from things that maybe don't fit through the lens of that truth or don't seem to filter through it properly. And we want to stay as open, or I at least want to stay as open as possible to every possibility of how universe, source, my soul, my inner being, God can lead me, can guide me. So I don't want to close that down. The other thing is that what we believe is true is what will dictate what we have access to. So if there's infinite possibilities and we could literally access any of those infinite possibilities, that's beautiful. But infinite is so big. And so in any moment we feel like we have a certain number of choices laid out in front of us. Where is what we see as choices in front of us coming from? I mean, why is it that someone that's sort of down and out and can't get a job or feels like lackful in some aspect of their beingness, why can't they just go land the $1 million job tomorrow or win the lotto? Probably because their vibration isn't even allowing that to show up, even though in the infinite possibility, it is there, that potential is there. They can't line up and light up that potential because they have no access to it, because it's so far beyond where they're vibrating. So if we line up a truth that doesn't leave room for our higher and higher expansions, we kind of cut that off. So it's nice to keep the flow of truth, to be that idea that it's constantly always evolving, and to choose the truth that leaves the most openness, the most freedom for us to expand. And what's really super hard about that is that we don't often know. We can't often see how our truth is blinding us, so to speak, how our truth might be containing us. And that's where it's often helpful to just take that time and look at the reflections around you, look at what other people have to offer to you, and see it as valuable information. Someone just went by on a bike. And take the time to be present with yourself. Maybe ask someone that you care about, ask someone that you trust to give you a reflection. Where do you think that I've dialed into a certain truth that may be holding me back, that may be not letting me expand? I mean, sometimes I think things like a strong belief system or a strong truth around the rightness of something, like environmentalism, or even getting down to the nitty-gritty of like how we treat each other. If we do that in such a way that it becomes the one truth, then it can take us away from other possibilities, like seeing all of it as an illusion, seeing ourselves as the creator of everything, seeing us as everyone, seeing every experience as having potential in it to move us to a different place. So if you liked this video and you would like to see more of them, then please hit the subscribe button, watch some of my other videos, and engage. I would love to have some engagement going. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about truth? How do you define it? What does it mean when you think about what your own truth is? Do you see it as something static and stable, or do you see it as something as moving, morphing, expanding, and evolving? Because I'd love to hear that. And I'm just going to finish my nature walk, and I will talk with you soon. Keep vibing up. Bye.